It's Mr. Dykstra. I'm here to talk about how we can get started with VEXcode VR, the online programming software for robots. So the easiest thing to do is just go to Google and type in VEXcode VR, and you'll see a number of sites that come up that are important. The very first hit is basically an informational site. It tells you about what they do. So it's paper files and things like that that explain what they're all about, but it's not really useful for programming, and it's not the software itself. The second link, this is your download code. So if you were to click on that, it would take you to a page that will give you the download link. And so here it appears, VEXcode VR. So you just launch this downloader. This is the one you want, the VEXcode VR. Notice it's free to use. And so if you click on that and go through the process, you'll find what you need to get started. Now, if we go back to the Google here, you'll see there's another website down here, VEXcode VR. This is the one where you actually can do the programming, vr.vex.com. And so that's what we want to get into next. Incidentally, I've also put the download link on Google Classrooms right next to the tutorial link. So you can find the download link here as well. If you find that easier, you can click on that and get into it that way. Okay, so now we're in the VEXcode VR. And when you go to this website, vr.vex.com, this is how it appears. It comes up basically a blank screen, and you're like, well, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I get started? Well, tutorials will help you with some of them, but I didn't find them the most helpful for myself. But you can watch some of them. They'll explain how you can do the driving, how you can do the turning, getting started, and takes you to some other useful criteria as well. The activities is a page, is a whole list of different challenges that you can try. So as you scroll down, you see there's a whole bunch of different activities or challenges for you to play around with. Some of these we're going to assign as tasks for our class. Others you can explore on your own if you like. However, if you were to click on them again, it's paperwork. It takes you to a Google Doc, which gives you the criteria that you need for the assignment. So it might be helpful to maybe print it off and have it beside you so you know what to work on, or use a split screen or a second browser, something like that, so you can have the instructions while you're trying to work with it. But this is the screen that we need to actually do any programming to get going. One of the first things you're going to want to do is give it a name. So you would go up here and you just type in whatever you want to call it. In this case, I'm going to call it practice program. And now you have a name. If you want to save it, because if you want to get back, be able to open this again after you worked on it, or you want to come back to working on it because you had to stop for whatever reason, the only way I've figured out how to do that is you go to File, and then you save to your device. And that will download it onto your computer, and then you can also load from your device that way as well. Just make sure you track where it's saving on your computer so that you can find it back. So what file, folders, or whatever you're saving it in, because you want to be able to get back to it again later should you need to. Or you can create a new project as well. Okay, so on this page, let's say you wanted to work on one of those challenges. You're going to need to get a playground. What a playground is, it's like a background screen or terrain map, whatever you want to call it, for what you're going to be doing. So for example, the grid that we were on is a default one, but you could also have an art canvas, which is going to come up momentarily. This is a good one for using for drawing your house. It's just a blank paper. There are some tick marks along the sides, so you get a sense of where you are in perspective, and you can have it drive around. You can notice there's a number of things that you can see. So there's a play button here, which lets you run your program. So you're going to do the coding on the side here, just like in Scratch. And then if you want to actually run it, this is the equivalent of hitting the green flag in Scratch. And this resets everything back to how it was at the beginning. You can also change the view. So right now we're top down, looking at the robot from the top, but you can also change it from the side angle. That's just a different view. It looks kind of cool. You can do as you're going along. If this box is annoying, you can change the size of it, or you can even minimize it. so it's out of your way. Notice again the activities button is here. That's again a way to get the instructions. And you'll see this table here is basically a list of all the different criteria and things that your robot is tracking. So for example, it'll tell you where the robot is and how far it's moved. It'll tell you which direction it's facing, how far it's rotated, and all these things, which you could use to help you with your coding and the distances and so on. If you want, if you find that more bothersome, then you can get rid of it by clicking on this button here and it just hides. Okay, so now let's look at making one of our tasks. So why don't we try this one first? This is the number maze, and you'll notice the playground, you have to change it. So I've selected the wall maze for this one. You can see what the maze looks like, and you can see why you could do this either as a letter maze or a number maze, because you can program your robot to follow either the numbers or the letters, whichever you've decided to do. So for my purposes here, I'm going to start off on the number maze. And so your robot starts here in this green box. You can just hit the reset button if it's gone partway along, so that it starts over from the beginning. And then you just start dragging in these different blocks from the side. So it's very much like Scratch. All those same blocks for movement are now called drivetrain. Scratch did not have a magnet, but we have one here in the robot. The looks, you can make it print words and things like that. Then you got some different sensors as well on the side here. All right, so you can do a number of different things. You can create variables just like we did before, operators. You have loops like if and forever and repeat until. It's the same platform as Scratch, so it works the same way. So right now, if I'm going to do the numbers, my robot's starting right here, and I need to get it to the number 1 first, because you're supposed to do these in order. So the first thing we're going to need to do is get it to turn. So I programmed it here, as you can see, to have it turn right for 90 degrees. Then what I discovered is that, with a bit of trial and error, is that driving this distance on this map is about 250. So each of the, like if you think of these as a series of a whole bunch of little squares or blocks, then each block is 250 by 250. So that will help you with the programming. So I got it programmed it to turn right and then drive 250 and then turn left and then drive 250 and so on. So if we run this program, we can see how it does that. It's turning, now it's going to drive. And you see it's highlighting the block that it's working on at any given moment. Right, and because this distance here would be 2 block lengths, you could simply go with 500. You can also change the view. Let's reset it back to the beginning. And we can watch it from the side angle. Just makes it look a little bit more interesting as it tries to drive and solve the maze here. Okay, so that's the basics for how to get things to drive around, which is basically all you have to do on the wall maze. You have to have some weight blocks or something like that in there as well, but it's pretty straightforward as far as that goes. One of the other options you had to pick from was the disk mover. This is pretty similar, but in this case, these circles of different colors are pieces of metal that you have to collect and return to the various different boxes. One of the neat things about this grid is that each grid square is 200 by 200. So again, you can kind of calculate how far you need to drive. So if I want to go pick up this first black block, it's going to be 200, 400, 600, 800 should get me right to where I need to go. So if I type in 800 there and get it to drive, it should drive right up to that first block and stop. There we go. Now, if I want to pick it up, I'm going to have to activate the magnet. So on the side here, you can find the energized magnet. So I'm going to add that in there. And now the magnet will turn on and pick up that piece of that circle, that ball, disc, whatever it is, disc, I guess. And now I'm going to have to turn around and go back. So I'm going to change this to 180 because 90 degrees is a right angle corner, right? It's like turning sideways. But if I want to turn all the way around, I'm going to need 180. And then I can go back and put in another driving block for 800. And that should return me back to where the start was. Alternatively, I could have it go in reverse and not have to turn around if I prefer to do that. That's another way of doing it. Now I'm going to have to drop that block off. So we're going to get this magnet block again, but in this case, we're going to make it drop. So if I do this now, my robot should, actually we're not going to be able to see it until I get the robot to move out of the way as well. So I'm going to get it to move out of the way. Actually, let's just reverse it. That's probably easier. So in this case, I'm going to just reverse it for 200, and we should be able to see it drop it off. Okay, so here we go. Let's reset it to the beginning. Get it to go drive. Turn on the magnet, pick up the block. Oh, I think maybe I have to have the magnet on before it drives up to it. Let's do that first. Quick little fix here. There you go. Now you can see it's picked it up. It's turned around. It's driven back. It's dropped it, and it's backed up. Okay, so that's basically how you would do it for picking up and moving these disks where they need to go. It's just a matter then of programming it to do what you need to meet the requirements. Okay, well, that should help you with the first task. The one where you have to draw the house is that one you're going to be using the art canvas. You're going to be driving around the same way. The only difference is you're going to need to be using the pen. And I believe that's under the looks here. So what you would do is you could put in a couple blocks just at the beginning, set the print color, make the pen right to whatever color you want, maybe red or black, whatever it is. You have to then also put the pen down to the paper. If you don't have it touch the paper, it's not going to draw. Actually, this is the pen color. The print color is something different. That's the print color is when you want to print words or something like that. And that's kind of interesting because they don't actually show up on the screen. You won't see them where you think you should be seeing them. You need to use these tabs here, which are quite helpful. This one here is a help button. So if you're ever stuck, you're not sure what something is, you click on the help and you just click on a block and it'll tell you all about the block and how you're supposed to use it, give you examples and stuff like that. So it's a very neat help feature that's very helpful. The other one is this one here, which this is where you would see what the readings on your sensors are, what the values in your variables are, but it'll also say anything that you're printing will appear in this screen here with this dial. So you will not see it on the robot, you will not see it on your page, but you will see it in this box, in the monitor box it's called. And so that's how you will be able to see things that you're trying to print. So don't get frustrated if you can't find it, it's just appearing in a different place than you would have expected. Okay, well that should be enough to enable you to get through the first task. That's a task that does not need to be submitted. It's not being graded. It's just a chance for you to practice and get familiar with the program for the one later in the week, which is going to be submitted and is going to be graded. Well, I hope that's helpful.